Welcome back to my vlog. Today is a very gloomy, sad day. So I thought, why not do a video over mental health. So I'm just going to tell y'all my story, and that's that. So back last year, around August or September, I can't really remember, I started going through a very bad anxiety, depression time. I went to the doctor for my thyroid because I have hypothyroidism, and they gave me a hormone pill, which pretty much was 3 times the amount that I was supposed to be on. And whether you have too much hormones or not enough, it can send you into a depression stage or anxiety, all of the above. So that happened, and it was just anxiety at first, just really, really bad anxiety. And I'm not going to get into details of like what my anxiety was about, but it was bad. And then after about a month or so of just constant anxiety, it was to the point where I just started getting really depressed. I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was crying. I couldn't sleep at night. So after about a month into that, I mean, it was to the point I didn't wash my hair. I didn't want to. I mean, it was bad. So I decided one morning, like at 5 in the morning, I was looking up different counseling areas or different counseling offices in Cleveland area, and I found this one. It was for battered women, but they also did just regular counseling as well. So I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep for almost 3 days, and that was probably the worst of it at this point. So I went around 6 in the morning and talked to them. I ended up getting into, they told me I needed a regular counselor. So my parents helped me pay for a counselor for a while. I went to 3 sessions, and it just was not helping. Nothing in my head was gonna help me. So one evening, day, I don't remember, I think it was around 12 or 1, me and Aubrey had gotten into an argument because, I mean, it was ruining our relationship as well. It was bad. It was really bad. And we had gotten into an argument, and I went into my room, and I had planned it, so I already knew how I was going to do it. I went to the car. I was trying to find anything sharp at this point. So I got a thumbtack. I don't know if this is too much information, but I don't care. It's my vlog. I got a thumbtack, and then that didn't do the trick very well. So I found a box cutter, and it was not the cleanest. It was rusted. And I cut my arms really bad. And I just sat in my room and just cut my arms for an hour. And I put on a jacket, and I went into the other room, and I started having a panic attack. And Aubrey, was like, calm down, you have to calm down. And I couldn't breathe, and I finally, after 30 minutes, calmed down and was like, I have to tell you something, but you're gonna be so mad at me. And she was like, what's wrong? So I pulled up my sleeves just like this and showed her one of my arms, and she flipped out and took me to the hospital. So she took me to JPS and got me signed in. When you go to the hospital or the ER for either suicide or self-harm, they obviously ask you, are you suicidal? And I said no. And the reason I said no was, number one, I wasn't suicidal. I didn't want to kill myself. It's just when you're in your head so much and no one understands, and the more you try to explain yourself to people and no one understands and no one gets it, I resorted to something else. I had to show people that I was hurting and I needed help, and no one was getting that. So that's what I did. So I told them that I wasn't suicidal, and thank God, because if I would have, Aubrey or my mom wouldn't have been able to be there until I got admitted. So I got admitted into the ER, and Aubrey and my mom were allowed to go back there with me. And I was just in the hallway at JPS ER for probably 3 to 4 hours waiting. I got a few tetanus shots. A few different people came and to talk to me. I think probably a social worker or something. I'm not really sure. And then I got sent to the 10th floor at JPS, which is the mental ward. From there, I went by myself. I spoke to a psychiatrist. She pretty much made me explain my whole life story. So I did. And then Aubrey and my mom were asked to go back there and explain a few things as well. And on the 10th floor, it's pretty much the same as a regular hospital. Like, you have your waiting room, but then it's completely locked down. Like, no one can go back there unless you're allowed to. So by this time, my whole family had been contacted. My real dad and my stepmom were there. My mom and my stepdad were there. My grandparents, my brother, who is now passed away, was there. And my wife was there. So everyone was there, pretty much. And I had no idea that they were going to be there. So after talking to the psychiatrist, I walked out and got to go back into the waiting room, and everyone was there. And in a way, it was embarrassing, but it showed me that my family loves me, and they were concerned about me. And so it was nice to see them there. Even though what I did was super embarrassing, they were still there for me. So I appreciate that more than they'll ever know. So from then on, the doctor pretty much told me either I had two choices. Either I could go in willingly, or they would court appoint me into the mental hospital. So I went willingly. I said goodbye to Aubrey and everyone else, and that was that. They took me into the back. They put me in a room where a nurse and like 10 people that were training to be nurses went in, examined my body, examined my arms, asked me a bunch of questions, looked like at my arms, like and just the whole thing was just really embarrassing, but it needed to happen. So from there, I went into another room, and they stripped me of my clothes. They, like, everything, like bra, everything. They checked like everywhere and put pretty much these paper bag clothes on me, and put me in a wheelchair and wheeled me to the mental ward. There's different phases of the mental ward. I was in Mesa Springs, which is just like the suicide ward. So there was people in there that either were cutting themselves or drug overdose or that kind of stuff. So once I was wheeled in there, it was like a little nurse's station. They took my little bag of clothes that I had worn into the hospital and asked me a few questions, and then I got up from the wheelchair and they opened the door. It's like a 2-door situation, and I was released into the crazies, which it wasn't honestly too bad. Yeah, it wasn't too bad at first. It was like, I think 9 or 10 by the time I actually got in there. They gave me my medicine and I pretty much went to sleep. Now, when you're at a hospital in the mental institution part, they check you like every 30 minutes. So even when you're asleep, they'll turn on your light and check your vitals, check everything. Normally you have a roommate, which I did, which is another story. She was pregnant and was definitely, she wasn't a harm to anyone, but she was definitely not there. She was telling me that she had gotten pregnant multiple times, but the aliens kept taking her babies, which was just, I think that she was losing them either from abortion or drug overdose or something. I'm not sure. But she smelled really, really bad, so I ended up getting a room switch. Thank God, because I couldn't do that shit. I'm sorry, I couldn't do it. So, but I had to sleep in there the whole first night, so it was horrible. The second night, the first night, I really didn't sleep that much because around 3 in the morning, they woke me up and took me to get my blood work done. I got an EKG done and all sorts of stuff in that area of expertise. From there, I pretty much just slept the rest of that night. The second day wasn't too bad. We woke up, we got taken down to breakfast. You're not allowed to have any caffeine in there, so there's decaf coffee, diet sodas, or water. And the food was pretty bland as well, because you're not supposed to have any sort of caffeine in there whatsoever. So after breakfast, we had different counseling sessions. The doctors came in and would go around to talk to different people. What else? All sorts of people would come in to talk to me. Social workers, all sorts of people. So that was pretty much the whole day, was just talking to different doctors and different nurses and stuff like that. Lunch and dinner were pretty much the same thing as breakfast. I ended up sitting with a group of women that kind of were going through the same thing as I was. I think one other girl was cutting herself, and then 2 other ones had tried to kill themselves with pills. And I'm actually still kind of friends with one of them today. A lot of these people that come in to the hospital aren't insane. They're just people just like me that needed help. So that really opened my eyes to a different perspective on the mental crazy farm. It's not just insane people, it's people that are real people that just need help. So that was definitely an eye-opener for me. I only stayed in the hospital for four nights and 3 days, or 3 days and 4 nights, whatever. The reason I only had to stay in there that long, it was a little bit past 72 hours, which is the minimum of what you have to stay in the mental hospital, because I turned myself in. Everyone else was either there because a police officer had to come pick them up from their home, or they didn't want to come in, so someone else had to choose for them to go in. Pretty much the hospital had to tell them that they were going to the mental hospital. So once I got out, and it wasn't that scary. There was a few people in there that were, really needed help, but it wasn't anything like the movies, to be honest. It just really wasn't. It was just people that needed help, and it was more sad than scary, to be honest. But once I got out, Aubrey was there. I went to my grandparents' house because I think Aubrey had to work that night or that morning. So I went to my grandparents' house because no one wanted me to be alone, and I just slept. For the next week or so after that, I was pretty much the same. Nothing really changed, but I was just on medication that were still trying to get into my body at this point. So after that, things started to kind of get a little bit better. I was going to an outpatient, it's called, I can't remember what it's called, but it's just the JPS Outpatient Center for the mental health hospital. So I did that for a while. I ended up having to see a neurologist. I can't say that word, but I did an ink blot test and all sorts of different testing. I didn't test for anything. The only thing she said I had was OCD tendencies, which means when I get into stressful situations, my brain kind of switches from like my regular brain to like this crazy OCD brain. And OCD is not what people think or joke around as it to be, because it's really not that. And that's just another complete story I'm not going to get into, but my brain switches. So for an example, I have been fine really the past year or 6 months. I've been really doing really good. And when my brothers passed away, I started to have anxiety and the same kind of thoughts and stuff like that. So I ended up having to take myself back to the hospital because I was having panic attacks. It was a little different this time. It was more in my chest kind of anxiety than in my head anxiety. So I didn't have to end up going back into the hospital again. But I did drive myself to the ER because I literally thought something, I could not breathe. And I've never experienced that in my life as well. So I embarrassed myself once again going to the hospital, and for them to tell me that it was just anxiety. So, but I am back on another antidepressant medication, which is helping me. I only have to take it when necessary, but this is something that I will probably always have to deal with, and I have to be okay with that. I didn't do this video for sympathy whatsoever because I can deal with my shit, but there's just so many people out there that post about mental health awareness and all this stuff, and I don't know how many people actually tell their story, but mental health is a real fucking thing, and it can fuck with your head, and it can fuck with your family, and it can fuck with your life, and it sucks. It really, really, really sucks. And for people that have to deal with it on a daily basis, I just can't imagine, because just having to deal with it a few months out of the year sucks so bad. So, like I said, I didn't make this video for sympathy. I simply made this video to get my story out there, because I know there's so many people that are dealing with mental health in the same kind of situations that I am, and they're just scared or embarrassed to tell anyone or get help. And it's literally, it's okay to get help. People literally go through so much schooling to help with people like us, and they're not there to laugh at you or to make fun of you. This is something that they live their life doing. So don't be scared or embarrassed to get fucking help, because it's just it's crazy the amount of different varieties of people that I saw and met when I was there. There was dads that were in their 30s that had kids and a wife. There were people that were 40s and homeless. I literally saw, so the week I got out of the hospital, Aubrey took me to dinner in downtown Fort Worth, and one of the guys I was in the hospital with was still in his paper clothes with no shoes on, walking the streets of Fort Worth. And that just broke my heart, because there's so many people that need help. That, I mean, the poor guy, I mean, was homeless. And I'm fucking sitting there at Taco, whatever the place I was at, like, having the time of my life, and I just got out of the fucking hospital, and he got released because probably, you know, he was in there for not only mental health problems, but because he didn't have a house, and he got released, and he's walking the fucking streets. And it just is sad. There's, you know, kids that were my age that just were dealing with the same shit I was. It's just, there's just so many people that are dealing with it, and so many different stages of life, and so it's okay to go through some shit. But anyways, I really hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I would love some feedback on it. Like I said, just know you're not alone, and there are people there that are in this world to help you. But like and subscribe to my channel, please. I will be doing a lot of videos on a lot of different things like this. So please like and subscribe to my channel. I hope you'll have a wonderful night.